Hi everyone, I'm Tom and this is Getting Into TV, your home to learning everything there is to know about working in scripted and unscripted television. This week, it's a little bit different. I got asked to do a live episode of the podcast at my old university to the media production students at University of South Wales, and it was really scary to begin with, but I actually really enjoyed it. It was nice to be able to have more of an open dialogue with the students, and hopefully you'll be able to hear a few of them questions later on in the episode. But for this episode, I'm actually joined by Sophie Cowdrey, who's one of the graphic designers on the latest season of Doctor Who. So we're talking a bit about Doctor Who and what it was like to work on it, but also a bit about what it's like to be a graphic designer. And I was also joined by Hannah Williams, who is a business advisor at BBC Studios. So we'll be talking a bit about talent, getting into telly, and just basically what you need to do and what she looks for when hiring new talent. So first off, if you want to be an AD in TV, there's a really great training program called Cool Time Ready. You might have heard them before. It's Cool Time Diary Service. I was on it a few years ago when I was an AD. But for this, it's Cool Time Ready, and it's basically a course that they have created that gives you everything you need to know about being an AD within television. Amazing course. I've had a look at it myself, and it really does cover all the stuff you need to know. It is created by two highly respected assistant directors within television and film, so you know that what you're getting is good. Once you complete the course, and you get a code that you can put on your CV, industry recognized, and people know that you have completed this amazing course. If you're interested in any of this, feel free to use the discount code INTOPODCAST10, and that will get you 10% off as well. Honestly, really do recommend it. The other thing I want to mention is a factual trainee program run by Lucinda Borrell. I worked with her a few years ago on Crime Watch, and she got in touch with me the other day mentioning her trainee program. And it's aimed to be affordable because we both know how hard it can be to get into TV, and she just wants to, especially from a monetary purpose. So the purpose is, like I said, is to be affordable, and it covers things like how to develop ideas for documentaries, the commissioning process, sizzles and when they're needed, things about pitch decks, and so much more. And all the sessions for that are online. And there's a link down below if you want to go and check that out. I think the next session is on the 19th of June. And tickets cost £20. But if you're in financial trouble at the minute, or you don't feel like you can afford that £20, there are 5 free tickets available as well. You just need to go and message her over on LinkedIn at Lucinda Borrell. But without further ado, it's time to begin this episode. I really hope you enjoy it, and I really hope I get to do more live episodes like this, because it is nice to just have that open dialogue with people. Enjoy. Hi everyone, I'm Tom. I'm an AP currently at BBC Studios in the documentary unit, and I was a student here on media production between 2015 and 2018. And I found when I was breaking into telly that it sometimes can be, even though uni preps you, sometimes you may not necessarily know what you're doing on set. Like when I first started on set, I had no idea what a call sheet was. So that's kind of like the reason I made this podcast. It was just to kind of like speak to people that you don't necessarily always get to talk to, and at least kind of break down them roles a little bit. So I've spoken to a fair few people on the podcast so far, director and editor on Casualty, people from Gritty Talent, like loads of people throughout the industry. And today I'm joined by Hannah Williams, who is the business advisor at BBC Studios. So look after the talent and other things within Casualty, Pobol, is that right?
Yeah, Casualty, Pobol, River City in Scotland, and our Welsh language and VAML.
And I've also got Sophie Cowdrey, who was a student here as well, same time as me. She worked on Doctor Who and started out on sex education. So we'll be talking a bit about the arts department, as well as talking about how to get into telly and applying for your first job. So yeah, thank you both for being here. Hopefully we talk some sense.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Hopefully.
Absolutely.
So I feel like best place to start is your careers, is just how did you both get into telly? Because that's one thing that I find on the podcast. Everyone has got a different journey. No journey is the same, like every single pathway into TV. It's not a set pathway. So yeah, how did you both get started?
The TV and film set design course here actually really helped me get into the industry. So, I spent 3 years here, and the TV and film set design course, it teaches you basically how to be a production designer. So you're learning how to draw sets for the art department. You're learning how to do white card model making and concept art. So then I got to the end of that course, and actually, because of the links that the university had here with the industry, there was an interview that went on with my year group for sex education, and it was the first series of it. It wasn't even called Sex Education. It had like a working title called Schooled. I had no idea what it was about, but I just thought, you know what, it's Netflix, it's a massive name. They were filming a show in Newport, so I was like, this sounds fantastic. So I applied for it. Was very, very lucky to have been chosen. And I started it in April while I was still in university, so that was a bit mad on my part. I had to, I think I negotiated with them to do 3 days a week on sex ed, and then I had to do 2 days a week back at uni to try and catch up with the course and finish it and get my degree. So I did that, and then, yeah, the course basically gave me this launch pad straight into the industry. It was absolutely fantastic.
Nice. And what about yourself?
Well, so I am obviously a bit older than you guys there. So literally, I used to love this TV programme called Neighbours, and Jason Donovan was in it, and Scott Robinson, and I loved him. And he was a journalist, and I was like, oh my goodness me, this is like the best job in the world. That's exactly what I want to do. Coming from the valleys, and obviously, like, I'm talking 20 plus years ago, there was nowhere to go. So I was working in a supermarket on a Saturday, and then a course came up. I went, and it was a BTEC in media in Merthyr College, and literally the BTEC just literally changed my life. So from that, I was able then to go to university, which I did do, but I think you chose university for different reasons. One of mine was there was no other way out to get into the industry from where I'm from. I finished, and obviously in those days we didn't really have the internet. This is how I'm sounding like a dinosaur now, but we didn't have the internet, so I'd have to write letters to the BBC or whatever companies there were and go, please, can I have some work experience? Please, please, please. And then come back, no, you haven't got any experience, you know, that sort of chicken and the egg. And then I was looking again in the Western Mail newspaper, and there was an article in there for a scheme called Cyfle. And I saw that, and I was like, oh my, that's it, I'm applying for that. So I went, got the interview process, didn't get it, which I was devastated. And then they rang me, someone had dropped out. And then I was the next in line, so I was like, and then that was it then. That was the catalyst, because then I was being paid to train. My first TV programme was a TV show called Belonging, and I was like the runner, you know, trainee. Well, I was supposed to be a trainee second AD through Cyfle, but they were like, you're not going to learn anything behind the desk. Here's your car. You're a runner driver. So I was like, okay. And then basically it was from that, and then I got the next series, and then obviously, of course, by then you're networking then to sort of get in, and that was my route. So I did go to university, but then it literally was that training course that is what made me on my way.
Yeah, just constantly applying for things, and it can be quite hard. We'll chat about that later, but it is just that thing of apply for things, and it will happen. I remember when I started, I was applying for loads of things, and I got an email one day from a company called Gorilla, and at that time I forgot that I'd applied for it, and they just asked me for an interview. But it's just that thing of when I was in my third year, I was like, just apply, and eventually it does happen, but it can be quite soul destroying, but it's worth it in the end. But Sophie, just talking a bit about arts department, what do you do then? Like, what is a graphic designer in the arts department? It's quite varied.
It's very varied. I was trying to think about how to explain it to people, because it's quite a hidden niche role, and not many people will even know about it. So for graphic design, it's basically like anything on your set that involves text or imagery. So it could be, you know, a character is walking down a street. So your street might need shop signage. There might be a bus station. The bus station might need a poster on it. You know, it's anything that kind of involves text and imagery generally falls to us. But then that makes it so varied, because you'll be spending one day doing, you know, bus adverts and vehicle graphics, and then you're spending the next day doing something completely different for a completely different set. So it's a very varied role, which is why I kind of love it, because no 2 days are the same with me.
Well, I mean, I said to you earlier, I was looking at your website, which you should definitely go and look at if you're into it. Even if you're not wanting to get into graphics, just go and look at it, because the stuff that she does it's incredible. But you mentioned on there that one of your memorable moments was photoshopping Richard Madden's arm to look a bit more tanned.
Yes.
Like, just talk to me a bit about your memorable moments in the arts department, because I imagine there's quite a few.
Yeah, sure. It's quite surreal sometimes, some of the things that I've had to do in my job. Richard Madden's arms was a bit of a weird request, because I think it was just literally photo frames for a house that the character lived in. for some reason they wanted him to be more tanned than he actually was. And obviously the photos we took, it was like in blinding sunlight. It wasn't very flattering. So then they asked me afterwards, could you just touch him up a little bit? Could you just like make him look a little bit more like sun-kissed? I was like, okay, it's fine. So that was a very strange one. And the other one that I have to mention is the latest series of Doctor Who. There's an episode called Space Babies. And I was literally paid to go and sit on set and scribble in crayons like a baby. And I was just like, I can't believe I'm being paid to do this. It was a bit ridiculous.
Honestly, like, I want to be able to do that. I love what I do, I really do, but I'd love to do that. It sounds so much fun.
It was wild. It was the amount of research that had to go into it as well. We were looking at, many different children's drawings. How do children draw? How advanced were the babies? Were they like artistic maestros, or were they like very simple? There was a lot of discussions and like meetings that happened about these baby scribbles.
I suppose that's like one thing you don't think of. When you think of the art department, you kind of think, I'm just going to go and make it. What is that research process like? Like when you were given, I think if you could just press a slide for me, on say, for instance, that top one up there, did you have to do any research for that? Like, where do you start
Absolutely.
with that?
I think in art department, like everything you have to do, it has to come with some sort of reasoning and research behind it. So the referencing process for graphic design in particular, it's really important because you have to kind of justify your design. You have to be like, this is where I've drawn research from, this is where I'm getting it from, this is how it's going to look good on camera. So for the puppet theatre in the Giggle, I mean, we were riffing on the toy maker. He has this 1920s shop, and we were looking at all of these kind of slightly older, spooky-looking toys, something that was slightly off edge because he's the villain. And for the puppet theatre in particular, I was looking at all these lovely Victorian puppet theatres. So there's, real-life versions that I found at toy shops. I was just constantly trying to find the right tone for it because then it will inspire what I do. I can have this whole Bible of references and, sort of cherry-pick the best parts and then bring them into my design, which was... Yeah, it's great. So the referencing process for us is very thorough, and we go through like several meetings with a production designer just to try and get the right look on camera. So everything's really detailed and thought through.
And I feel like that makes it a good piece because you don't think about what's going on. I spoke to a sound guy the other day, and he was saying that his job is, he's always done a good job if no one's noticed him on set. Yes. And it sounds ridiculous. You've got to be really good at doing your job. It goes the same as being a runner. You've got to be really good at doing your job, but you've also got to be really good at not making yourself known. If that makes sense. You've got to work the art of... I can't explain it. You've just got to be good at what you do and just don't make a thing about it. That's the best way to explain it, I think.
Definitely. I think that's the same with the art department. The art department has to try and make these sets feel so believable that you're watching it and you don't think it's a set. You're just in that world. It sort of immerses you, and that's the mark of good production design.
Definitely. Just on art department, it's really varied. Like you were training on sex education, you did a various amount of things, and now you're a graphics designer on Doctor Who. Can you just talk to us about the roles within the art department? Where can you go?
Yeah, sure. Oh gosh, there's so many different roles within the art department. The art department is a massive umbrella for many different specialisms. So, I mean, when you break it down, you've got draftspeople, so they're the people who draw up the sets. You've got construction workers, those are the people who build the sets. And then set deck, that's an entire department in its own. You'll have prop buyers. They just go out to all the different prop houses and they're purchasing like furniture items and little small pieces. So you need people to dress the sets, and then you need graphic designers to kind of fill in these like slightly, more niche details, which hopefully kind of tie everything together and bring the set to life. There's so many different roles. You can be on set as well. You can be a standby art director. So they're the people who are kind of looking after the art department side of things on camera and making sure that, there's no problems set-wise or art department-wise on the day when they're actually filming it. Because most of the art department, we're ahead of schedule. So to be honest, you often won't see a lot of us if you're on shooting crew, because the shooting crew will just turn up on the day and film everything. But we're the ones who are there like days beforehand, maybe like weeks beforehand, prepping the set, making sure that everything's ready, so then the shooting crew can just step in and do what they got to do.
I mean, I know people here for media production, but for anyone like listening or watching, do you find that you need to have an arty background to be in the art department? Can someone say, fit in if they would go down the trainee route?
I think as long as you've got an interest in it, then absolutely, yeah. There's so many, like I say, there's so many different varied roles that you might just find your niche in one particular area. You don't necessarily need to know how to draw sets, because that's quite specialist. You know, you can come in without that sort of experience and still kind of hit the ground running as a runner, as an assistant. You know, go into places like props and set deck. It's definitely transferable.
And Hannah, you obviously, we heard there about some of the roles that are in the arts department. Talking more generally about TV, you obviously look after the talent amongst other things. Could you talk to us a bit about applying for jobs within TV? Because a lot of these, I know they're, I think, third year or second year, but also a lot of people that listen and watch are getting into telly. What are the things that they should be putting on their CV, and how can people kind of, I suppose, tackle getting into telly? It's quite daunting.
I would say, this sounds really stupid, put your phone number on your CV. I know that might sound ridiculous, but I have so many CVs and their contact details are not at the top. If we want somebody, like as you can imagine, we get, you know, a lot of CVs, and if we need someone quick, we just need those details right there at the top. So I would say for doing your CV, get all your contact details, even if you've got bases everywhere as well, you know, across the country, because even though I'm obviously based in Cardiff, like, you know, we have other programs like EastEnders in London, you know, we have Silent Witness as well. So if we see a CV and say EastEnders are looking for somebody, I can send that CV then over to EastEnders. It's just having your contact details there straight away. And also now as well, make sure you put your GDPR statement on there as well, because your CVs, you know, can't be shared without that being on there as well. And I'd say I quite like, a simple CV. I just want to know, you know, your contact details, you know, just a little bit about yourself as well, and then talk about your experience. What a lot of people haven't been doing is, like, say you've got, like, you know, a job in the cinema or you're working in retail, make sure you put that on there, because that is, for me, I look at that and look at the transferable skills that you have, because, you know, I always think, right, if you can work in, you know, customer service and retail at Christmas time, then you can work on a TV set, really, because it's all about communicating, how you deal with people. So I'd say that's really important. And then, you know, obviously, like with all your grad films and things like that, put that on there, but maybe go into like a little bit of detail of what roles you undertook, because I get lots of things saying, I'm a producer, I'm a director. Well, I'd just like to know that, just that little bit more, what type of...
What did you do?
What did you do? Because I like to look at a CV, and sometimes you might not see it, but I might see it and go, do you know what, actually, they've written that on there, they might be really good in this department or whatever, and then I would contact, say, have you thought about, you know, this department? And obviously just keep it as, you know, it is to that 2-page thing as well. Anything longer, like I've had CVs and they've been 10 pages, and I'm like, oh, no, I'm all right, thanks, I'll just, you know, go off the first couple of pages.
It's true. I mean, I'm currently on a program at the minute, and we're currently going through our CVs, and they say basically make your CV accessible to the laziest person in telly.
Yeah.
Like, don't make it complicated, just make it really simple, and make your life easier, make their life easy. It's the worst thing you can do, to overcomplicate it. But like, when it comes to applying for TV, like I said, I didn't know what I was applying for, basically. I knew I wanted to be an AD at the start, but I didn't know how to get there. Where can they look? Where can people listening look to get TV and to get that break? Because it's easy saying you need to contact people, but it's hard, isn't it?
It is hard. So, but back in the olden days, I used to get, like, you know, magazines and literally just go through, guess people's email addresses. We've gone into some places and we say Facebook, and then people have laughed because they're like, oh, that's for old people. It's just a platform that's easy for us to post things onto. Whereas, you know, like, you can't really do it on TikTok. So many groups out there as well, join them all. And also, I never mind if people email me all the time. I will do my best to reply, but it's also, when you email somebody, don't email just going, oh, I haven't heard from you. Email going, Hannah, just dropping you my email. This is just the latest update of what I've worked on, you know, and just keeps that conversation going as well without being annoying.
It sounds stupid. When you're looking for it, you don't need to always ask for that work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to kind of just keep in contact and say, like you say, I've done this. Recently, I made my first film on Crime Watch. And so I wasn't asking for work, but I just emailed my talent manager and said, I've done this, look at this. And sometimes, obviously you won't have that relationship at the start, but sometimes it is just about continuing a relationship. Don't just always be like, ask, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you know what they're wanting.
Yeah,
really,
definitely.
you know.
And it's also as well, sometimes that CV might just drop at the right time
Yeah.
where, you know, I know it is, you know, that sound, but that's how it is. You know, sometimes you might be like, oh my God, yes, I've got a
Yeah.
CV. And then you're like, quick, there's 1 year.
Yeah, right place, right time.
Yeah.
It is.
So asking for advice as well is a really good one. I've had people email me out of the blue, not necessarily asking for a job, but just asking for advice. How to get in, what can I do to improve my CV or portfolio? And I'm always really happy to respond to people. So yeah, don't be afraid.
Sticking on the theme of talent and getting into telly, I'm assuming with what you do, like productions come to you and say they want like a runner or something. What kind of qualities are people, say, at Casualty looking for in an entry-level person, in an entry-level runner or something?
I have like 3 things, and I've said this for like a long time. It's love, passion, and enthusiasm. I'd say is the 3 key things, because like, as you know, and you know, like I love telly, and you know, it is long hours. It's, you know, it's unsociable. You're in the rain, you're in the snow, you're in the sun, you know, and you've got to really love that to do it. And I think if you've got that love and you've got that passion, then I think you'll be absolutely fine. It's just having the right attitude as well to learning.
Yeah.
You are going to come in as a runner, and it's up to you whether you want to.
And the beautiful thing about being a runner, I mean, I started out as an AD in Casualty and on things like Jamie Johnson, did a day on Doctor Who, and I loved it. But then I also found, I basically started doing work on Crime Watch, which was factual, and I never thought I wanted to do that in my life. I thought drama is always a thing for me. But I just found that I just really enjoyed being such a small team.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing, is don't pin yourself straight away.
No.
Like, the best thing about being a runner is you can go anywhere, you can talk to everyone. Like Casualty, we were saying earlier, it's really cheesy, but Casualty I find is like a family.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's all really helpful. And if you can get on something like that, there are, like, just go and talk to people. It's the most valuable thing you can do.
Like I started off as a runner, and I'm so glad that I did, because like really you're the most important person really on that, because you're the one that everybody goes to. If you don't know your call sheet, you know what I mean, you learn your call sheet, everybody will go to you, you know, so you're the one that literally you have all the information, because you know what it's like, not everyone reads the call sheet, and sometimes you never know who you're going to be talking to around the tea table, or who's asking you a question, and then it just starts off those conversations then.
I'm just going to be really shameless and plug myself right now. You probably do know how to read a call sheet, but if you don't, I have got a video on my YouTube of basically taking apart a call sheet and just everything on there.
Yeah.
So feel free to go and watch that. It's the thing that people comment on the most, is the most helpful thing that I've done. Just talking about being on set then, what's a day-to-day like as a set designer or as a graphic designer on Doctor Who?
Sure. I mean, the day starts with me for, hopefully if I've got the script, then I do a script breakdown. So then I'm reading through every single scene, and I'm trying to imagine in my head like what graphics are needed, if they're not scripted as well, because I mean half the time the graphics won't be scripted at all, so you just have to read the scenes and try and imagine it. And then after that I start doing the research process. If there's anything in particular, like a particular set, say the Space Baby scribbles, and I've got to start researching baby scribbles and try and figure out how to draw like a child. Then I'm on the design stage, and then I'm working in like Illustrator and Photoshop. I'm basically an illustrator for most of my life, to be honest. And I'm having conversations with the production designer, I'm having conversations with my own team, you know, we're just trying to start putting things together. And then I will go and dress a set, which is always quite fun, because I get to go out and see like really exciting locations and sets, and just stand around going, oh, this is so cool.
What's your favourite set that you've dressed?
Oh, that's a difficult one. The toy shop in the Giggle was so beautiful, because Set Deck did an amazing job on it. It was just, you know, floor to ceiling full of these really beautiful period accurate like 1920s toys, and I just thought this is fantastic. How have you guys brought this all together? So it's lovely to walk around. It's really beautiful.
It's definitely one of them sets. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I am a Doctor Who fan, but watching them particular episodes, you can see just how much like love has gone into it.
Amazing.
I mean, you
The
mentioned
craft,
earlier, I don't know if anyone here watches Doctor Who, but the beauty of you is obviously you are a fan yourself, and the beauty of being in the arts department is you get to put them Easter eggs in. Can you just like share a few of them? And
I've been a fan of Doctor Who since I was 9 years old, so to actually be on the show now is like little me's brain kind of exploded. We put magpie electricals everywhere.
Oh.
We've got to put that in. Any sort of tech, we're like, is it a magpie tech? Let's just put that on there. And one that I did fairly recently actually, which was quite lovely because it got picked up by the Radio Times. I wrote an article about it, was a billboard in the Devil's Cord. So that was episode 2, which just came out a couple of weeks ago, actually. There's this lovely sort of panoramic shot. It's Shooty and Millie on the top of a rooftop in Newport. I don't think any of that's CG either, except for the landscape beyond. But like we had to lift pianos up onto the rooftop, and that billboard was
actually lifted
a build as well. I think Alex Moore, who you've talked to as well on locations, he got like a couple of cranes set together on the street, and they were just sort of lifting things here and there onto the rooftops. So it's a real mission to get things up there. And we built this billboard that I had to do the graphic design for, and I put in a very niche Doctor Who reference from the 1963 episode An Unearthly Child, which the Radio Times picked up on and then wrote an article about. So I was very happy about that.
I like that. Obviously, people here from media production, say if they were to make a film, what's really useful when they're writing a script? What's really useful for you in a script to be like, okay, I need to do that?
Anything descriptive, really. I think in the script, like, you know, usually if we're starting a scene and you've got like a nice paragraph at the beginning kind of setting the tone, that really helps me, because it kind of helps me get into the world a little bit and try and imagine it for myself, because that's a big part of what I do, is just imagination for play. I'm just sitting there trying to think, okay, so we're in this scene, okay, what graphics are here? What could be dressed into the location to just try and enhance the story? Because again, that's what we really do, is just we're enhancing a narrative. We're just trying to add like depth to our locations and depth to our sets. We're trying to tell a story with design, which is really fun.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine. I feel like if I wasn't doing what I do or didn't go down the AD route, I feel like if I could go back like 10 years and be like, right, I need to get arty, I'd want to do that. Because honestly, my boyfriend's trying to get into it, and it just sounds like so much fun. And sometimes I just sit there and watch him draw, and it's really exciting. Now, obviously, we're freelance, and you deal with a lot of freelancers, and at the minute, it's really hard out there in the industry.
Yeah.
What would you say to people getting into the industry that they should know about navigating life as a freelancer? Because no one prepares you for it. I really wasn't ready. When I became a freelancer, I just was not ready for having to set money aside and all that kind of stuff. How would you tell them to navigate their freelance life, and just any tips that you can share? Really?
Yeah, it is really hard. So I would like take jobs working in like care homes, so you've got that flexibility as well. Like I know it's not, things are obviously a lot different now, but it's just being able to have that it is that flexibility. Because say like, for example, you come and have dailies on Casualty, it will just start off as dailies. So it's trying to find a job, which I know is difficult, that will allow just that flexibility. And then obviously it's just building on from there really, and it's going to networking events as well.
I hate networking events.
Yeah. I know. It's like knowing people, or it is just that thing, because that's what's happening now, is we're all sort of like talking a lot more, and we're all now sharing good people and what's coming up. So there is a lot more information out there now as to what there is, but it's just, you've got to keep knocking on. If you really want it, you've got to keep knocking on those doors. There's no...
Definitely.
Absolutely. I know that I feel like that doesn't sound really helpful at all, but it's just keep knocking on those doors, because it will happen, and it will.
We were saying earlier, like it's one of the industries where it's really great, and you'll always find that the job comes to you when you need it, not when you want it, and like you've just got to keep at it, and it's really hard. Like I mean, I've got a job now until the 6th of September, but already I'm starting to think, okay, I need to start looking for that next thing. And so you're never truly comfortable. You just kind of got to, I don't know, you just got to keep, like you say, building them contacts, and never just be complacent and think, oh, I've got a job for 3 months, I'm fine. Always just continuously look.
Absolutely. It's try not to be disheartened by it as well, because it can be really tough, especially when you're starting out. I mean, when I started, I didn't know anybody in the industry whatsoever. That's why I felt like I had to go to university, because it was that perfect sort of jumping point for me. It's like, this is my way and this is how I can meet people. But once you're out there as well, it's really difficult. So the best advice I can give is just keep talking to people. It's really important to have that network, and your network just needs to grow as well. So it's talking to as many people as you can. It's firing your CV and portfolio out, but just getting to know people as well. So those networking events are great.
And don't be afraid to be honest and know that you don't know everything.
Yes.
I think that's one thing you find sometimes, that people might join and you've been a director on a uni film, but that doesn't mean you're a director. You've basically got to go into the industry and just know that you're still starting from the bottom.
Yeah, you're going to be a runner.
Ask them questions. And people love it when you ask questions, because more often than not, most people in the industry are really nice and want to help you.
There's a couple of organisations out there as well for the art department in particular. There's the BFDG, which is the British Film Designers Guild. They have like a membership directory, so you can go on their website, you can find production designers, you can find supervising art directors and art department coordinators, and they're typically the people who hire for the art department. So it's a case of like going on those lists, trying to find their contact details if they've got it available, if it's an email or a phone number, and just try and get in touch with people. And actually as well, I have to give a shout out to the Graphics Union as well, because I've been working with them recently, and I've joined them as a member, and they're just like a really great group of people who are graphic designers for film and TV.
I think that's a really good point.
Creating a community.
Get your community, even if it's a handful of people. It's good to have that group that even when you're out of work, you can still talk to people, because it gets quite lonely out there. But it's great. It is great. It's just you want that group of people you can talk to and be like, oh, I've got this. There's this thing going.
Yeah, the Graphics Union has been great for that, because it's like it's a community of like really experienced graphic designers who set it up, and then it's not just for they post job adverts, but it's also for information. So it's because it's such a specific role. You can go to this union and there's a forum there, and you can just ask questions about, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? And like we've been saying, like people really want to help.
You
so
do,
you can always ask
I was going to say there's like that
questions.
TV freelancers in Wales group on Facebook as well. Like I think they're really good and useful as well. And it's just like if you're watching a TV program, look who makes it at the end and go, right, look at that company, just send them an email, because everyone's got a generic contact on there now, and just email them.
To the both of you, would you say it's important to know what you want to do, or can you be versatile? Like for instance, me, I obviously thought I wanted to be an AD, but I've now fallen into factual, and potentially maybe I would like to go back to production, to drama one day. Is it important to stick to one thing? Can you be versatile?
No. I just think it's easier to work at what you don't like than what you do like. Because I thought, like, I started off as a runner, I was like, oh my God, I love this. And then I was like, oh, I liked editing and things. And then I was an edit assistant, and then I was like, oh, actually, I don't like being an edit assistant. So definitely, you just got to try everything. But like, we had somebody come in, this was years ago, thinking like that's, it was through the apprenticeship scheme that we had. So we bring them in just to see, and literally by 12 o'clock, it was like, no, actually, this is not for me, and was literally gone. So it's just working out, I'd say, more what departments you don't like, and then just try them all and find your favourite.
Definitely, that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah, those entry-level roles are really important, because it's like a taster, isn't it? You get
and that's
to
why
try
the runner
loads of
role is
different
so
things.
important, because you are the one that sees everything and deals with every single department. Be a runner, it's the best job in the world. It really is.
I've said that before, like I would do anything to go back to being a runner. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so much fun, because you get to talk to everyone and just see everything. I found that I wasn't behind the desk as often as I am now. And it's just a lot of fun. But going back to like when you first started in Tally, what do you both kind of wish that you knew at the start of your career about working in TV that would have made your life just that bit easier? And like, what are the realities of working in the industry?
Gosh, I wish I knew about graphics sooner, because I didn't expect to go into graphics at all. It's not what I trained in. I trained to draw sets, not to design graphics, but I didn't realise that I really loved it until I got to try one of these sort of trainee roles and get to have a bit of taster of everything. So it's one of those things, I mean, you're not going to find your niche until you try it, really. But I kind of wish I knew about it sooner.
It kind of goes back to everything we said of just try different things and be versatile and talk to people.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, I'm obviously from a different time. Like, the industry was very different back 20 years ago as to what it is now. I don't think I would change anything. Like, well, actually, I suppose what I would go with is what I'm more interested in. Like, I love research. Like, when I got the researcher job on Doctor Who Confidential, like, I thought this is the best job in the world, and I still think it is, because even now I'm like, research that, and I just do it for fun. But that it's just knowing, right, that Hannah, that is what you like, and continue with that. And I still do it now. I suppose I wish some myths were dispelled a long time ago, as in, I was told, you won't make it because you don't speak Welsh, and it's like, well, actually, that's not true. So that's not true, or you know what I mean? Or you've got to have like millions of qualifications to work at the BBC. Well, that's not true either. Do you know what I mean? And, like people would say, like, oh, you're not going to work in telly because of how you sound. Well, that's not true either. It's just dispelling those myths that... I wish there was somebody was like going, don't believe him, Hannah, don't believe him.
Yeah, no, there's a role for everyone.
But I'll tell you that, don't believe them. No, don't believe them.
I just want to point out something you said there, because obviously you love research, and I've been a researcher. And like when I was in media production, I didn't know anything about research. Head was assistant director, that's what I want to be. And I met someone, I don't know where I met them, but they basically heard the word researcher and they thought what I did was really boring and just behind a computer. And then that's not true, because working on Crime Watch, I, as a researcher, would obviously research the cases, but you'd be finding locations, you'd be finding... I mean, I was saying to you earlier, I've been mixing fake blood and stuff like that, and you'd be finding weapons, and you go and do reconstructions, and it's completely varied. So definitely go and check out like Screen Skills website, what their job roles are, because a researcher is more than just research and stuff. You are... It sounds stupid, and everyone says it, but it is literally different every single day. What you're doing.
It's like on Casualty, we have researchers. So you're like researching all medical, you know, someone's got something in their leg, what happens to that? You know, that's that research. Like when I was a researcher, you know, I was on Doctor Who Confidential, right? Doctor Who's going to America, research that. All right then, brilliant. You know, so it literally, you just, you know, all right, research that episode of it's just...
the industry is completely more versatile and varied than you probably think at this point. 100%. As soon as you get in there, a few years' time, you'll be like, okay, this is massive. This is absolutely huge.
So many niches. There's so many really specific job roles that you had no idea existed until you actually get in and see it for yourself.
It's true. Have you guys got any questions at all? Doesn't matter if not. I was the exact same in university.
There was a question here, but sadly the audio didn't quite pick it up. When it was just a bit about whether things like the volume and technology like that assists the art department in any way.
Yeah, we had virtual production actually on Doctor Who quite recently with the episode Boom. So I think they used the same technology on The Mandalorian. And when I saw it, it kind of blew my mind. I couldn't believe that this was happening. It was so incredible, because it's like a green screen, but you can actually see it. You know, they don't have to do that post effect. It's already there. It's in camera. And I was just like, this is so clever.
My favourite use of that was when you actually had the TARDIS.
The TARDIS,
And for the first time in the whole history of the show, the TARDIS was actually... It looked bigger. It looked amazing.
Incredible. So I think it's making leaps and bounds to... You know, that technology is quite expensive, so I think it's used a lot on, you know, bigger feature films productions. But to have it on Doctor Who's been really lovely. And there's something that Phil Sims, the production designer, I think he was working with that a lot. So it does cross over into art department quite quickly. So hopefully we'll get a bit more of that on Doctor Who.
That sounds amazing. Fabulous. Honestly, like I've missed all that drones, that stuff.
I want to be on set.
Brilliant.
I want your job. What would you say to someone that wants to, that's like got that interest in producing and script writing? What would you say to someone?
Always for script writing, just write. All of them say exactly the same things. Just keep writing. And there's also like, I don't know, like It's My Shout. I don't know if you've heard of that scheme as well. Like that's a really good one. Like because we work with It's My Shout. Because I go in because I think, well, they've given you all that training now. Really, I should come in and like sort of swoop you up really and go, right, okay, this is great. Now you should come on to Casualty, Pobol or whatever we've got, you know, going in. So, but on the definitely on the writing thing, just right. And there's also roles which I don't know if you know, like script coordinator. That's our entry level. You know, that's the entry level in is script coordinator, and it literally is what it says. You are coordinating, and you can imagine for Casualty, you know, with all the medicine and things like the drafts that they go through. There's a lot of different drafts for different people, but then also that path will, you know, can lead you on then to the researcher role, then to the assistant script editor, or, you know, or you could switch over then and go story. Because I think there's been, you know, Casualty writers in the past, and, you know, they have been researchers on Casualty, and then they've just, you know, sort of gone up that way. So it's just getting into that editorial side. We're all sharing our roles now, like, you know, Culture Connect Wales as well. They're posting all our jobs. Screen Alliance Wales, you know, it's not just... You know, it's not just right BBC, they're all like everyone's signposting each other's, you know, roles now as well. So
it's just a case of being on top of all of it and just keep checking his website.
That's exactly what it is. So many now.
Did you have a question, Paul? Was it?
It's interesting, back to the art department again, because a friend of mine recently, he works in the art department, and he was inspired to get into the art department by a wonderful film called Aliens. I always like to bring it back to that. He recently got to work on the new Alien Romulus film, and I'm just curious, like, is there anything I suppose for either of you actually, which is that kind of dream moment of which, like, I was inspired by that, and I'd love to kind of go and work on that set.
I've had such a full moment you know, full circle moment with Doctor Who. It's been really crazy because, I mean, when the show came back in 2005, I just remember being so enthralled by it and just completely immersed in the world and the storytelling that they were doing. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. It like instantly became my favourite show. I was completely obsessed with it.
It is the best show on telly.
It is. It
It
is.
is. And so is Confidential. Confidential is what got me into telly. So
Yeah, that's
I was going
nice
to say.
to know.
Absolutely. It's like it shows like that where
Yeah.
you think, oh, actually, maybe I could do this as a career. I remember writing emails to the BBC. I must have been about 15, 16. I was still in school. I was contacting them. I was like, how do I work on Doctor Who? So to actually, you know, I never planned to actually get into it, but it's just life has a funny way of
Yeah, it
making
does.
that happen.
Because but Doctor Who is like Unconfident is literally a show that changed my life. Like I can't, you know, you meet, like you're still friends with all these people as well, but it literally did, because when I went for the Confidential interview, I didn't realise it was for Doctor Who, because obviously they were keeping everything under wraps. So I turn up and then, you know, meet my future boss, and she was like, right, so can you name all the doctors in order? And
Yes.
I was like, oh my God. But luckily, I'd been a fan of Queer as Folk.
Yeah.
So obviously, I'd learnt
Yeah.
all the doctors in order. So I was like, oh, great, thanks, Russell, for that one. And literally, you know, and I was like, oh, I think I did well on that one. But it is like, Doctor Who, like, you're in so many different worlds, so many different genres. Like everyone always says, you know, go and do different genres and things like that. Like I was, you know, when I do class myself, I was really lucky that I didn't have to go out everywhere because I was working on Confidential. I was in a different world every week, so I did have the period dramas, you know, the sci-fi, you know, all those different genres, and like that's just really lucky to
I think
have that.
I think it's one of the most difficult TV shows to make because of that scale, because you're going to a different planet, a different time period, like every single episode. It basically means for us, I mean, especially in the arts department, we have to start from scratch every block. It'll be like every month or so, we're completely knocking everything down and starting again, whereas with other TV shows, you might have standing sets, you might just be in one location for the entire thing. So it's like a training ground. It's really fantastic.
That's what it is on Casualty, because like the Casualty set, even I still I go in there and I still think that's amazing.
It's one of the coolest sets
It
I've
is
ever
really
been on.
like you don't think you're in a studio towards
Sometimes-
you. Like it's so huge, and there's so many different rooms off you which you don't never see on camera. You know, and they're just, you know, they're everywhere. And then on the flip side, then you got Pobol, which like Pobol is 50 years old this year. Like, you know, that's just such an achievement in this day and age. Whereas, like, you know, we have the back lot, which is all the exterior sets, and then we've got two studios there, which have got all the flats, and like they're so small. Like I don't know if you've been in there.
Yeah. I filmed some Crime Watch stuff on there.
It's just so different.
Yeah.
All the sets, they're brilliant.
I filmed reconstructions on Casualty, on the Pobol set and stuff. It's such a small network of people in the industry in Wales. So just get out and talk to people, really. My final question, I basically end my podcast this way every single episode, but it seems to be the one that stumps people, which surprises me, seeing as we all work in telly. But just what have you been watching recently?
Yes.
I like to get recommendations. I've recently finished watching Lost Boys and Fairies. To anyone watching, listening, or here, you should watch it. It's really, really good. And I'm trying to talk to the producer on a future podcast, which might be of use to you, because I think he also does It's My Shout as well. So
he does.
That would be a good one for you to listen to. But yeah, what have you been watching?
I've just finished Eric.
Nice.
As well. I really enjoyed that. I did it as in, like again, art department. It is beautiful. 1980s New York.
Oh,
like
dreamy.
the cost. I just think it is beautiful. And then I have just watched Aaron and Nick Carter, Fallen Idols. So, you know, I'm kind of like in different things like that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
nice.
Eric was the last one I watched.
I need to get on to Eric.
I've been binging Bridgerton because I know there's a new series just out, so I'm trying to catch up at the minute.
Yeah.
I just finished series 2, so now I'm ready for series 3. And like for art department wise, it's just so immersive and so detailed. I can't imagine the amount of work that went on behind the scenes on those shows, because it must all be period accurate. It's just so beautiful. Yeah, very beautifully done.
Point of that is watch as many varied things as possible. And one thing that I've really started doing myself is watching, say, dramas or documentaries, and at least once a month just emailing the production company and being like, I really like that thing. And sometimes try and just pick something out specific that you liked.
Yeah.
But that's a really good way, because that's you're not asking for a job, but you started that relationship with that company. And I think that's one of the best things that I've started doing.
And that really comes in useful then for interviews as well. If you get an interview as well, when you go somewhere, make sure you've watched that programme. Because these days there's no excuse to not watch any programmes, because they're all on either iPlayer or, you know, or on other things as well. Like when Doctor Who was in Roadblock, we used to get like interviews for Casualty. Yeah, I want to work on Doctor Who. And we're like, no, you're for an interview for Casualty. You know what I mean? And yeah, if you come in for an interview for Casualty, watch Casualty.
Yeah, just arm yourself with knowledge.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And it'll look good to interviewers as well. They'll be like, oh, this person actually knows their stuff.
Yeah.
They've done their research.
Thank you for chatting to me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. If you want to listen to any of my podcasts, watch them. I hate plugging, but I have to do it. They are on YouTube, and I've spoken to, like I said, a range of people. It's up there, getting into TV.
They're very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
It's all about basically breaking down the roles and just having a normal conversation, because I found that there's a severe lack of just normal, accessible conversations. So yeah, I hope it helps. Thank you.
Thank you.
We did it.